Good morning, sir. I am Shiva.
Shiva.
I am
Okay.
a physiotherapy doctor. I am from Nagarnal district, Telangana state. Sir, when we think of developed nations, we remember the countries like United States, European countries, China, etc. So, what were the main factors do you think that prevented our country to stand beside those nations today? And do you think that there is a true willingness from the government, maybe from legislative, judiciary, or executive, to bring better conditions in our country today? And thank you so much for providing this opportunity to us, sir.
Thank you, Shiva from Nagar Karnool, physiotherapist. Shiva's question is what bothers many of us. Every day we say we're a developing country. When will we become a developed country? What does it mean? First of all, we must realize this is not something that happens by a flick of a switch. It takes time, effort, good policy, hard work, patience. But it can be achieved much faster than in the olden days. In the olden days, it took probably 50 years, 75 years, a century for a country to come out of poverty and become relatively developed. But China has shown the way. While China is still not a developed country, it is at the very high end of developing countries, higher middle income countries. China's per capita income today is about $12,000–13,000. In terms of purchasing power, it's probably close to $20,000 or more. That means roughly about half or a little under half of the developed world. And China will probably reach developed status in the next 20 years. They have shown a remarkable way forward by focusing all the energies on economic growth and infrastructure and better service delivery to the people. India too can do it. That we are a democracy, therefore we cannot do it is nonsensical. China improved its economy by acting democratically, not because they acted dictatorially. Good quality education and healthcare are democratic tools, not dictatorial tools. Better infrastructure and access to services. Most of all, decentralization of power. These are all democratic tools. And sound policy and economic freedom, encouraging people to invest without too many fetters. These are democratic tools. Oftentimes we wistfully think that if only there is dictatorship we can improve our economy better. No. Whenever China or other countries acted dictatorially, economies failed. When they corrected their ways and acted sensibly and democratically with economic freedom and decentralization and some modicum of rule of law and investment promotion, then they performed very well. So it's not democracy that is the problem. It is bad policy and bad execution. We must understand that. So what do we need to do in India's context today? The first is focus on infrastructure. After decades of neglect, now India government is paying attention. We should encourage that, we should be happy about that, and more needs to be done. Then a climate in which we encourage investments. Everybody is treated equal, level playing field, and the investor feels that they will bear a market risk, but otherwise there is no political risk. No matter who is in power, I can do my business honestly and compete and prosper if the people buy my products and if I can establish myself in the market in the face of the competition. The moment it is politicized, then there is a problem. Investors will shy away from that. And we will not get fair competition and therefore quality goods and services. Then our emphasis on education. Quality education. Our education is appallingly bad. China has exceptional quality education for its level of economy. In school education, China does very, very well. India does very, very poorly. By any meaningful standard of measurement, Indian school education for most of the children is very inadequate. Children are bright, they are hardworking, the parents sacrifice a great deal for the children, they want education, society values it, but the educational outcomes are appallingly bad because of our bad structuring of education. Our healthcare is one of the poorest in the world. We spend the lowest amount on healthcare in the world, and we can easily improve healthcare without spending too much money. We need to spend more money, but not lots of more money. But we are not focusing adequately. Without healthcare, there is no productivity. Poor health itself is the cause of impoverishment in India. 60 million people are becoming poor in India every year, descending into poverty from a non-poor state to poor state every year. We must focus on that. And of course, you must have a reasonable rule of law. You may not perfect it overnight, but at least contracts must be enforced. There must be predictability. You must be confident that Gundas will not take over your properties or factories. Rule of law. And decentralization of power, learning from China, but with accountability. We are trying to address some of them, not all of them. If you address all of them and well, with mobilizing the public opinion and making people understand what it means, each of these, India too can do as well as China has done in a short period of time. We are showing some serious growth impulse now. There is a realistic chance of India sustaining 7 to 8% growth rate over the next 20-25 years. And that's desperately needed. That's vital. And all of us, beyond parties, beyond ideologies, beyond regions and religions and castes, we must all be united on the need to improve the quality of life, the need to grow the economy at a rapid pace on a sustained basis, and the need to improve the infrastructure and quality of services and rule of law. And to that extent, at least, we must stand united. Unfortunately, political parties are looking at the very short term, ignoring growth, ignoring what happens to the economy in the long term, ignoring what happens to the public finances in the long term. Today's vote has become the only mantra. That's a very dangerous situation. That will be very seriously hampering long-term growth of the country, and our children will pay a very heavy price. So I'm sure our parties have enough wisdom. They'll come together, and if we put pressure on the basics of how to make India a developed country in the next 25-30 years, there will be a broad consensus. There is enough contention in politics. There is space to fight on ideas and ideology, but not whether or not to have economic growth and have prudent public finances. On those issues, there must be a settled debate. We must all agree if we want a better future.